Good morning. I got 7 stories for you for the second week in September. The first one is that the FERC gave the New York ISO the Heisman on its proposed changes in its capacity market in order to facilitate more integration of renewables that would help it meet its 70% clean energy goals by 2030. The FERC said the proposal lacked justification for prioritizing these state-preferred resources, and since it was discriminatory, they wouldn't have to listen to the argument. This echoes FERC's position on last year's PJM minimum offer pricing rules, where their state-subsidized assets had to bid in at a higher minimum price. New Jersey and Maryland were not pleased with that. They've considered exiting PJM, and New York ISO, the Public Service Commission, has already launched a proceeding whether it should be considering taking back control of how the state's resource mix is determined. So more tension between the feds and state markets and their carbon goals. Switching all the way to the west, to the apocalyptic landscape that is California, Pacific Gas and Electric announced on September 10th that it restored power to nearly 172,000 customers that had been affected since the 7th by preemptive public safety power shutoffs. The PG&E crews have now begun patrols on the ground and also air inspection over almost 10,000 miles of transmission and distribution lines to see if there are any damage or hazards out there. This is probably going to be, unfortunately, the new normal for the West Coast. And if it is, expect nanogrids to start popping up everywhere, little microgrids. And within a short period of time, we got to expect that customers are going to start using their electric vehicles to back up their homes. There's already V2G technology out there. That one's only a matter of time. With respect to climate, it's good to see that some entities are continuing to starve the beast on the hydrocarbon side of things. Italy's top bank, UniCredit, announced it's going to limit exposure to its coal investments to zero by 2028. Meanwhile, Greece has announced it's going to spend almost $6 billion to offset the impact of shutting its coal plants and getting out of the coal gen arena by 2028. Those expenditures will be supported by state money, funds from the EU, and also loans from the European Investment Bank. And they intend to eliminate 80% of the state utility public power corporation's coal capacity by 2023. Among other things, they'll be making a huge investment in 2.3 gigawatts of solar during that time frame. And then switching to Asia, South Korea's president announced they're going to close 30 coal power plants by 2034, with 10 of those by 2022 and an additional 20 by 2034. They're also going to triple the amount of solar and wind coming into the system, and they plan to increase the number of EVs from about 110,000 to 1.13 million, and also grow the number of hydrogen vehicles from roughly 8,000 today to 200,000 over that same time frame. And speaking of clean vehicles, Nissan's 500,000th Leaf rolled off of its production line in Sunderland in the UK last week. Nissan drivers now have totaled more than 9.2 billion electric miles driven over the last 10 years since the Leaf has been out there in the marketplace. And speaking further of vehicles, on September 8th, Nikola Corp and GM announced a strategic partnership with Nikola to use GM's Ultium battery system and Hydrotech fuel cell technology. Nikola will exchange $2 billion worth of stock for in-kind services and access to GM's parts and components, and GM will have 11% ownership stake in Nikola and the right to nominate one director of its board. So that was announced on the 8th. 2 days later, Hindenburg Research, kind of interesting that a company named Hindenburg would be involved in trying to take down a partially hydrogen-dominated company. But anyway, it's a short seller research firm. It alleges massive deception and fraud in Nikola, including, among other things, a prototype supposedly functional dashboard being powered by an extension cord snaking up under the stage to the display. And also this January 2018 video some of you might have seen showing a Nikola truck rolling down the highway. Apparently it was rolling based on gravity on a highway with a 3% grade, fairly straight road, and just letting the thing roll. So it's not really yet clear what's going to happen with all of these allegations, but GM's Mary Barra announced just the other day, after all this came out, that the company had conducted, quote, appropriate diligence. So there's some fake news in there somewhere. We'll know what the reality is eventually when the dust settles. Well, thanks for watching, and we look forward to talking to you again next week.